So even though this chapter feels like it's a bit hopeless and like our Straw Hats are overwhelmed, Oda never fails to make you smile and just kind of throw in some comedic elements like the Ode to George of the Jungle.
One Piece, Chapter 247, Ball Challenge.
What? Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and action-packed godly tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us finishing up Volume 26, and really just meeting Satori, the round, fat, pumpkin ball, bowling ball man of the mystical, magical forest of unicorns and love. And really just things kind of seeming hopeless as he has this this mantra power where he can kind of like see things before they happen. I have equated it kind of to like a spider sense, just because that's the only thing I could think of at the time that really kind of went with it. You can kind of, almost like a premonition, you can see what happens a split second before it happens and counter it. So anyway, that's how things left off, of course, with Usopp, Sanji, and Luffy, fighting this fella in the forest, so of magical dreams. And that's where things pick up. We wind up seeing the majority of this chapter does take place in this challenge of the ball, and this round fat fellow over here, or whatever he is kind of goofy, and starts out with talking about this and that, and now I'm going to do this, and I'm just the typical bad guy monologue thing, and they're talking about how the ship's getting further and further away, sailing down this milky road, and how it's going to get lost, and they need to obviously get to it. So Sanji's like, listen, just chill, because Usopp's like, he's running off, and Sanji's like, listen, no, don't get separated. I'll go with you. And then Luffy's like, you guys go take care of the ship, actually. That's what he says. And he says, I'll take care of this guy. And it's funny because when I first read it, it says something along the lines of, I'm going to beat this ball guy up or something like that. And I thought he said, I'm going to kick this guy in the balls. But anyway, just goes to show you I haven't obviously woken up enough yet, I suppose. Because I was reading this and I'm like, really? He's going to bust this guy's balls? That's what I thought he said. I was going to bust his balls. So Luffy stays back. Sanji and Usopp go ahead to try to actually get to the ship. They don't want to lose that in this forest of no return. So Luffy goes and gum pistol, and of course Satori sees it coming, and it's kind of a cool looking page where he just sort of like artfully dodges it. It goes past him. He grabs his arm and then just kind of like whips him around and smashes him into a tree. And puts Luffy down at least temporarily. So then Sanji and Usopp, it goes to them, and Usopp's kind of higher up, and he's like guiding Sanji where to go. Sanji can't see as good through the forest. He's like, no, climb that second tree, and then you should be able to jump right to it, And then Satori goes and appears, and Satori goes and he fires, he's like, oh yeah, and take my surprise ball, and he fires this ball down, and Usopp thinks he's targeting Sanji, and he's like, watch out, Sanji, be careful, and then all of a sudden he looks, he's like, wait, no, he's targeting me, and this ball that comes at him, it's hilarious because, Usopp's like, oh my god, it's gonna blow, it's like right in his face, and he's freaking like he usually does, and it winds up being a flower comes out of the thing, and then Satori's like, oh yeah, wrong ball, I guess, so... Just like I said, the little comedic elements in there help to break things up, because ultimately this chapter is one of those chapters that feels very hopeless in the sense that it's like, man, how are we going to beat this guy, So he's just kicking everybody's ass. So Sanji's, still trying to obviously get to the ship and whatnot. Usopp goes and as I said, he kind of goes and falls down or what have you, And he winds up going and grabbing himself, getting himself perched up on something so he's not going to be killed, I guess you would say. And at least for the time being, he's semi-safe. And then Luffy comes flying in and he's pissed, right? He's pissed because he got cold-cocked is what happened. He got nailed. And he wants to take care of business, you know what I mean? He doesn't like losing, so it's just not part of his mantra, right? So anyway, so he goes and, he comes up and he's like, gum, Gatling gun, and he just starts trying to nail all these different balls that are bouncing and flying around, I guess, And they got all kinds of crazy ones. One of them that goes and it's exploding, and one of them that's got a bird that hatches out of it, another one with spears that come out of it, another one where a bunch of dildos come flying out, and anyway, that one's in the special edition, so it's you can't get that one in stores. But anyway, no. So there's a ton of different things that are happening, and obviously Sanji's like, don't he tells him as he's doing it, like, don't do that. What the hell is wrong with you? Because it's obviously it's going to cause all these problems. So they're trying to go and take these things out. Luffy winds up going in, and one of them that winds up hitting him, or he winds up getting hit. He winds up falling and losing his, basically falling down, and he goes and falls through the Milky Road. That's what it was, because it's the water and everything like that. He falls through the Milky Road, and luckily is able to go and grab onto a branch, you know. And then just like Zoro did a couple of chapters ago, he pulls the Tarzan, he swings onto the branch. He's and just goes swinging across, and they're like, "What the hell?" Freaking Luffy, you know. So anyway, so things wind up, progressing along over here, and as I said, Satori just kind of keeps coming at him, and of course there's the imminent danger of the ship just continuing to move away from them. So they're trying to do the best they can to, to get to it. Is the whole goal of this thing, and then of course Luffy wants to beat Satori. So then Usopp goes, and Usopp's like, all right, you know what? It's right across there. I got a dead eye on it. He's got it locked and loaded, man. He's like, I'll just swing on this branch and get right over there. So he goes and he secures himself up and everything, and goes and swings, and he does a, he goes swinging across, and, and Sanji's like, oh, this is great, and he's like, perfect, just get over, once you get over it, just drop down right under the ship, and Usopp goes flying across, and then he's like, wait, I can't unfasten it from my belt. The idiot tied it to his belt or whatever, so then he just kind of goes swinging back. And then you see in this next page, or this next picture, you see Sanji, and he's going to scold Usopp and Luffy, and Usopp just both look like beat to shit, man. Like, just one eye closed, and big fat lip, and just and it's real funny because it's drawn in like the goofyish cartoony type way, you know what I mean? Not their actual. It's like almost I forget exactly what the name of it is, but it's not the actual like drawings of them. It's kind of like this goofy cartoony sort of everything extended and blown up sort of thing, So I just thought it was kind of funny. Kind of funny how you have it. So Sanji's like, listen, are you two done screwing around? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we are, And he's like, listen, what we need to do is we need to work together. And right as he's saying that, man, all of a sudden out of nowhere, Satori comes and just, boom, just whap, nails him, And Sanji goes, and you just see blood spurt out of his mouth and everything, and it looks like he took a real, obviously he got blindsided, which makes the attack even worse, but it looks like he really got hurt. So, and then he goes, and Satori goes, and that portion of the chapter winds up ending. It's the majority of the chapter, right at that point, Satori goes, and he says, 1 down, 2 to go. So then you go and you flip the page, and you're like, son of a bitch, I thought it was going to be the end of the chapter, but there's a few more pages, and one of them is a flashback page that shows the whistle that was given to them by Gonfall, and what his whole deal was. What they were fighting over it, if you remember, and who's going to do it, and who's going to this, and how we're going to... And they wind up deciding eventually that they're just going to hang it on the mast, near the cabin of the ship by the mast, where it attaches to the ship, and kind of a central point where anybody can get to it. And there's just a comedic flashback where Nami's, threatening everybody, basically, like all like Usopp and the ones that don't think before they act sometimes, and like Luffy, so that she's telling him, and even Sanji goes and he's like, I will kick the shit out of anyone who touches that thing. So it goes and it takes us out of that 1-page flashback to Chopper, and Chopper, of course, has been left alone on the sacrificial altar, 150 feet above, the water. He's been tasked with protecting the ship, and then, of course, fixing it as well, while Robin and Nami are off having a magical threesome with Zoro in the forest. And actually, I don't know if they're doing that, so we'll wind up seeing, I guess, in the next chapter or two. But I just figured, I was thinking, well, Zoro gets both the hot chicks with him. Good deal, right? So so anyway, so Chopper's there, and he's like, okay, and I'll just take this and put it around my neck just in case there's a problem, this and that. And then the chapter ends with, and I can only assume that it's one of the other, the 4 priests or whatever, because of the way, well, number one, he comes in on the bird, so he's like the guy who was riding the bird, back when Nami saw them on that island or whatever, when she when she was riding the waver, and he just kind of comes flying in and just just right there in Chopper's face, and that's how the chapter actually ends over here. We will I should have had it saved, but I didn't. He just all of a sudden pops up, and it's just like, there's the flashback page, and there's and Chopper's all thinking, yeah, hang on to this whistle just in case, and all of a sudden this dude just, he's there. So very, very cool stuff. I certainly enjoyed it. So my chapter question is, and I've asked this before, but, ultimately it doesn't matter. It's a long journey, and many of you that were answering 100 chapters ago, some are not now, some are participating that weren't. There's new people coming on board all the time. But what do you think about some of the comedic moments? Personally, I love them. I think it breaks up, I wouldn't say the monotony, but I would say that it breaks things up and it gives kind of a lighthearted feel to some of the action. You know, it throws a little humor in there, so it doesn't make it feel as heavy and weighty or depressing when there is something going on. Because ultimately, this is a chapter of, like, you know, futility. It's like, hey, we're struggling. We can't beat this guy. We don't know how to beat this guy. He's better than us, at least at this point. And but some of the comical things, like, you know, just the little kind of nods to Tarzan with the swinging on the, you know, the branches, and just some of the different comedic elements. What do you think of the comedic elements in One Piece itself? So leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you have not done so already. We will what the hell am I saying? We look forward to catching you in the next Fun Nation.
He's a hopeless romantic. He chain smokes despite the Surgeon General's warning. Ladies, meet Sanji.